something that I've seen over and over again, which is that generally below the presenting text and dynamic, there is always some other dimension, whether it is spiritual warfare and demonic oppression and influence, or it might be emotional brokenness, bad experience with a parent or with a home situation, which suggests to me how complex really what you seek to do is and how multi-level your approach has to be in order to be effective. As a minister, I see many times in the counseling context that many times people are really, they are expressing some sort of deeper element that I need to find and address and speak to in order to bring out the true source of the problem. And I just think that in this whole cultural debate, we must be aware of the fact that people often need to be confronted with that deeper dimension in order for us to be truly effective. I think the Bible says that men sometimes prefer their own lies and their own lusts to the truth. And often I think in these debates that we have and in seeking to confront the culture with reasonable arguments about our faith, we may be missing the mark if we don't go to that deeper dimension of resentment, of demonic oppression, which begs the need for prayer, for finding that other side of the argument and presenting it to the people that we contend with. Otherwise, we end up just hitting the top of this huge iceberg and not being very effective at all.
That's right. And for myself, back in 1989, I was doing a debate at the University of New Hampshire. That's when I still lived in the Boston area, and I headed up the New England Christian Action Council, a pro-life organization. And in the debate, there were 3 people on the pro-life side, 3 people on the abortion rights side. And I almost didn't go because I thought it would be a cacophony. But I went. And this one woman asked a question from the floor of me, and she thought I said something I didn't say. And everyone in that audience, 400 students were packed in there, knew that she misunderstood it. So I very gently said, "Oh no, this is what I said." Well, she steamed because it made her look badly. I'm trying to understand her perspective. I wasn't all that aware of it just in passing. But I know I gave her a gentle answer. I know some of the audience laughed at her, and I don't think she liked that. And most of this audience was in favor of legal abortion. So anyhow, after the forum itself, I was in this convex lens-shaped conversation. And there was about 15 of us in the shape of a convex lens on both sides. A fellow with the Religious Coalition for Abortion Rights, a number of my students from Gordon Conwell Seminary who are doing supervised ministry with me. And so people from both sides of the issue. And she walked up and interrupted the conversation. And she looked at me and said, "I don't like you shoving your religion down my throat."
Which seemed to be the real argument behind all the other stuff.
Well,
her feelings
it's rooted
about
in
religion.
A history of pain, no doubt. But I laughed. I said, "I talked about informed choice all night long. I'm doing exactly the opposite of imposition." And so she looked at me, and then I said, this is the nature of the gospel, is to give people freedom. We're all accountable for our choices, but the gospel always gives people freedom. And then she looked at me and she said, "Well, my God is not your God." Well, that was a fairly bold statement. And I said, "Oh, that's fine." I said, the beauty of a democratic republic is that we can each believe in our own gods so long as we honor the rights of other people. And at this point, and I was not prepared for this, her voice dropped an octave, deeper than where I can go. And she said, "Well, I don't believe in democracy." Okay, if you're talking with a Marxist and they say they don't believe in democracy or something like that, that's fine. But the thing was, out of her body came this literal wind, and we all fell back 2 or 3 feet, including a couple friends of mine, one friend at least who's a PhD in New Testament right now. And we did a post-mortem. The whole discussion broke apart. Everyone went back. The guy with fell back. Everyone, or rather the man with the Religious Coalition for Abortion Rights had a shocking look in his face. What happened? Well, as I reconstructed this, I realized I was not looking for demonic activity, but I was laboring for informed choice, because this goes back to Genesis 2. This is life, this is death. I wasn't imposing any religion, but the devil wants to accuse the church of imposing itself, when it's everything but the Bible in history that imposes itself.
You know well the text, the Bible says, resist the devil and he will flee from you. You mentioned in one of your writings that the ultimate goal of the activist homosexual movement is to remove our unalienable right to differ from this claim to marriage being a human right for gay men and women. Again, the concern that I have is that if that is the case, if that is the desire and the main purpose, to muzzle us and to remove our God-given rights, to me that means it's a very sinister, very dangerous goal, which addresses the very foundations of our society. Shouldn't that be resisted with absolute decisiveness and clarity, as opposed to sometimes the gracious way which we Christians go about it, seeking to be nice and to be civil and to be winsome? To me, if there is a demonic strategy, or at least a demonically inspired, fueled strategy to remove rights from believers and to destroy the foundations of our society, that would require a very militant, clear, defined stance, as opposed to one that is so protracted and so gracious that ultimately it might end up just debilitating us and running us around in circle, while all these groups are gaining all kinds of points and achieving all of the goals that they have established for themselves. Seems almost like a counterproductive strategy, don't you think?
Well, you've raised about 1,800 issues. The territory is so huge. Let me touch on a few. First, I'll do it by means of a question. What is the speed of darkness?
I have no idea. Science was not my strong subject in school.
Darkness in physics does not exist. Light does. So whenever a light particle is present, darkness flees. This is true ethically. If you live openly and accountably in the presence of those who live in hidden lives, they don't want to be in your presence. And thirdly, Jesus is the light of the world. He imbues us with his Spirit to be the same, and the devil is the prince of darkness. So what happens is, if we are going to enter a contest, it is between Jesus as the light of the world and the devil as the prince of darkness. So we wage war in the heavenlies, not in terms of earthly means. But
so you're saying that just declaring the truth is enough?
No. I'm saying we start at that assumption, okay, that we are laboring for people's souls. So in many of the people that I've done forums with or debated politically, my whole goal as a minister of the gospel is to show them the beauty of the gospel. So here we are taping this in Boston, and many people who watch this may be familiar with Arlene Isaacson, who won the gay rights bill in 1989, co-chair of the Massachusetts Gay and Lesbian Political Caucus, and then 2004, the legislative side of the debate. Well, I've done 3 forums with her, including here at BU and Harvard, and she gave me a hug after the 3rd forum, and yet I disagree with her entirely. And the reason being is I treated her as an image bearer of God, and then she says publicly, "John, you are a true gentleman and a thoughtful advocate." You see, that's my goal, is so much that agitates against the gospel is rooted in human brokenness. The gospel is open-ended. I don't require of Arlene anything other than my calling to show her the love of Jesus Christ.